big elephant in the room is how we are going to get all this useful information heard in a really loud, noisy world where people generally just click on things which look most appealing on Facebook, and nothing is longer than 30 seconds long. And so, you know, having got all our backgrounds that we have in media and, you know, education, we basically came up with this product which we think should work. And let me just tell you about the principles. And so the idea is what we're trying to do is find a format that is shorter than a lecture. You know, we can go on YouTube and watch a 1 hour, really high quality video where somebody would explain you things deeply and interestingly, but these videos tend to have 50 views. On the other hand, what you have is Facebook has become a huge platform for video and other social media too. And what we are trying to do is bridge this gap and create a product which is short. Our videos are going to be about 3 minutes long, but each of them addresses an issue or a concern and answers it from an evidence-based point of view. So we connect people's fears and concerns, but we go deeper than, you know, your simple facts, than 10 myth-busting things. And to do that, how do we do that? We arrange the videos into a short course. So you can take a course, for example, some of the courses that we are thinking, well, some of them we're making and some of them we're thinking of making. One will be with a Professor Hein Haas, whom we interviewed in Amsterdam, and he's the kind of one of the biggest researchers and teachers on migration. He's written lots of textbooks. And so what we got him to do is explain to us in a series of about 10 3-minute videos what he knows about migration in terms of the big picture. And that being, are we living in the times of unprecedented migration? Are we going to see, given the wealth disparities in the world, are we going to see the developed world attract more and more migrants? And what is that developed world going to be? And what happens when countries limit migration? Because it looks very neat, we're going to build a fence, but none of that works. So what kind of dynamics happen? And also ask him about how migration happens, how people take these decisions, what happens to the flows, and so on and so forth. So that's going to be one of our lectures. Another one will be a woman called Nasim Majidi, who is based in Nairobi and does a lot of research in Somalia and Afghanistan. We've asked her for the perspective of the origin countries, because she works a lot with you know, migratory situations, and we've asked her things like, what happens to people who get deported? Because as far as European media coverage is concerned, when somebody's deported, that's the end of story. What she tells us is most of these people re-migrate. They not necessarily don't come to the same country, but they go somewhere else, which begs then the question, what is the point of this whole expensive exercise of deporting people? And other things, we'll talk about integration as well. We'll interview one economist who's done a lot of work showing what happens if you keep people out of work for a long time. And what happens to people who have been given a passport of a country versus people who have not given a passport of the country. Do they leave? Do they stay? Do they fare better? Do they fare a lot worse than the people who have been given a passport? And incidentally, his research shows that the people who if the difference between a person who's been given a passport and who isn't is very small many years later, it really reflects in their social capital, their human capital, their income. So we'll kind of address issues like that, but what we'll do, we will apply all the skills that we can and turn them into short, quick videos. So speaking of dissemination and how to get heard, we're here because we understand that our core group are people who are interested in migration, subject in general, have maybe migratory background, are involved in integration and refugee work, and we want you guys to amplify the stuff that we produce. That's number one. And number two is that we are interested in not only hearing from academics, but also people who have a migratory background and can talk about these views that are not really often heard about, for example, how exclusive many professions are and how difficult it is to break into different career paths and their experience and stuff like that. So, so we are maintaining a broad network of people who act as our advisors. And you can go on our website and just drop us an email, and we'd be definitely interested in hearing who could be those people who don't have a celebrity status, because celebrities do speak out and it has a lot of impact for sure, but there is a lot to be said in a more nuanced way, which is exactly what we're trying to do. So I guess that's pretty much what I wanted to say. And what we want to do is just show you one video. It's not entirely finished, but just to give you a taste. And then
future migrants may come from and go to.
That's it. Yeah. It's about 3 minutes of your time.
Future migrants may come from and go to very different countries than right now. Number of migrants in the world hasn't actually gone up. I mean, absolute numbers have gone up, but the world population also has gone up. Half a century ago, about 3% of the world population was an international migrant. That's still the same percentage. If we look at the longer term, actually migration hasn't accelerated. Of course, there's more migrants, but there's also more people in the world. All forms of mobility have gone up, like travel, commuting, business travel, tourism obviously have spiked. But actually, migration in terms of people changing residency has been remarkably stable again. Obviously, with growing interconnectivity between societies in the world, people's awareness of other societies will only increase in the future, but it doesn't necessarily translate into more migration. I think the more relevant question, instead of asking will it be more or less migrants, is asking where will future migrants come from and go to? And there we've seen things happening over the last 50 years that nobody would have predicted. Nobody would have predicted 50 years ago that Europe would become the global migration destination that currently attracts more people than, for instance, the United States and Canada together. So in the future, although we cannot be sure, migrants may come from and go to very different countries than right now. Take one example, China. Many people think that most Africans who want to leave the continent all go to Europe or all want to go to Europe. Now, first of all, the big majority of Africans move within the continent, to prosperous countries within the continent. But actually what few people realize is that more and more Africans explore destinations outside of Europe. And China is one of those new destinations. What may also shift in the future is the sources of migrant labor. You know, over the last decade, it's been countries like Mexico, Morocco, Turkey, the Philippines, who sort of played this role of emigration countries and important sources of both labor and family migrants in North America and Europe. Well, those countries are also developing. A country like Turkey, even before the Syrian refugee crisis, had become already a destination for labor and other migrants going to Turkey, and the numbers of Turks leaving Turkey had gone down. It's almost certain that the future outlook of migration will be totally different from the current one. So the danger is to take a Eurocentric view and think that Europe will always remain the center of the world and the global migration destination, the same for North American countries. Those may well shift in the future.
So, you know, it's something in between a lecture and an easy-to-watch video. We hope this is something people would share and would like to hear your feedback. And the way we'll organize it is that you can subscribe to a sequence of emails, say a 10-day course, where you'll get a bunch of these, and our promise will be that after 10 days of watching 3-minute videos, you'll have a lot more nuanced understanding of the subject that we're tackling.